Dog Films presents Paid to Dream with Charles Dennis.
Just like homemade bread on the shelf, you don't have to buy it, you can make it yourself. Follow Mama's old recipe with us, homemade TV. Homemade TV, yeah.
Yes, welcome back to Paid to Dream. My guest today is a man I've known for 50 years, Larry Mollin. What did you think of that clip?
It brings back good times, actually, and people I love. So I was happy to see it, actually. But it's a long time ago. We kind of were crazy.
How did a New Yorker like you come to do this show in Canada?
Well, I was with my future wife in 1970. We crossed the border on our way to California. I was going to go across Canada. Stopped in New York. Stopped in Toronto, and found out that the government paid artists, which I had never heard of. They paid a living wage, and there was a theater festival that summer. We were theater people, we were show people, and I wound up, directing a play and acting in two. And they said, no, we'll just stay here. And I got my first equity gig at Toronto Workshop Productions, and made my $25 a week, and I was happy. We just stayed there for 9 years. We set up our own theater. We had our own TV series. We did all the CBC radio with Peter Zofsky, and it was a great training ground. I really thankful for Canada for helping my career, get my 10,000 hours, so to speak. In 1978, I went back to the U.S. I went to Hollywood. Followed you.
What was your... Wow. What about the military? Did they never want your services?
Okay, so I was exactly the wrong age. When I graduated college in 68, it was the biggest call-up. And I got arrested for playing the harmonica in the subway on the way from Queens to Manhattan. And the cop, I just got charged. I had to go to court against it, and I lost. Because even though I wasn't playing, I just was miming it. But I had really long hair, and it was just that kind of atmosphere then. And I sent my arrest thing to my draft board, and they sent me a 4F in the mail. So I never really had to deal with it. I never went for a physical. I was undesirable. I was a troublemaker, and that was it.
I guess that's the secret. Being a troublemaker. We were always a troublemaker. I was.
The other side of it, which is, socioeconomic, I guess, my draft board was in Freeport, New York, which was 85% black. And so at that time, you got a deferment for college, and most blacks didn't go to college. And so they had plenty there. They didn't have to worry about troublemakers like me.
Tell me about your childhood. I really don't know much. When I met you, you were full grown from the forehead of Zeus.
I grew up in Merrick, Long Island, outside of New York, kind of lower middle class. I had an older sister, and my younger brother was 7 years younger than me. And I was an athlete. I was a football player, basketball player, sprinter, and I thought I would do that. But when I graduated college, I got 800 on my college boards in Latin, and wound up going to Georgetown University School of Foreign Service and becoming a Russian major, and went to school with Bill Clinton. He was in part of our 100-member class, and I was basically being trained to be a diplomat or a CIA agent. And then, with the war going on, I just realized, no, I don't think so. So I started volunteering at the local theaters and got involved in theater and met better women that way, and you know how it goes.
Did you have any interaction with Clinton?
Of course, he's my friend. We all knew each other well. I ran my roommate ran against him for class office freshman and sophomore year. I managed the campaign. We got beat every year. He was so good, so smart, and a good winner. He was always very gracious. He didn't kind of rub anything in, and we've been friends over the years. And when I was executive producing Beverly Hills 90210, we shot in the Rose Garden, and which was really nice of him. And I would see him on Martha's Vineyard, where I have a home, and he would like to visit during his presidency. And I saw him as recently as 2018, when we had our class reunion which he, threw a fantastic weekend for everybody. And he's a good guy. He was exactly the same way. As an 18-year-old, he told us he was going to be president. We all laughed at him because he was poor as hell. He would, for lunch, he would eat, the bread on the table and ketchup rather than order anything and save his money. So it's pretty more remarkable to see his growth, and I care for him very much.
I had no idea. But then when I first met you, who knew who Bill Clinton was? Was he the governor? I met
He's
you in
probably governor of
'77.
Arkansas then, or it's unfortunate his presidency ended the way it did, but it probably changed the course of American history. That was such the bar has been lowered so much now. The fact that he lied was so terrible. Like men had always lied about blowjobs forever, so it was like bizarre. Anyway,
It's a good title,
he
Blowjobs
admired,
Forever.
as a young man, he always admired Kennedy, and Kennedy, of course, had many mistresses. And you work hard, you got a mistress. What's the difference? And plus, he came from a brothel town. I mean, he was, from Hot Springs, Arkansas, where prostitution was legal.
This is a whole other book or movie. You know that? Your brother Fred Mollin is a legend now in the music business. What was it like growing up? When did he pick up his first instrument?
Well, again, he was 7 years younger than me. I started noticing like when he was 5 years old. And first of all, one story. When he was 5 years old or 4 years old, he had a hernia operation. And when of course, I got blamed for it because he touched my weights or something, my free weights. But my mother always think it was my fault, but it's kind of bullshit. But when he came out of his anesthetic, the first thing he looked up, I was there, and he said, "Get me Skinny Minnie." Skinny Minnie was the new 45 released by Bill Haley and the Comets. That's how into music he was. The first thing he could think of as a 5-year-old was he wanted to have that record. He just was always in music. I was words, he was music, and that's what we were. He dropped out of school when he was in 10th, but he didn't even finish 10th grade. On his birthday, my mother walked him to the school, and they left. And he came to live with me in Toronto in, I guess, 1971. I just took him in. He had actually was there before he was 18. So then when he turned 18, we were going to register him in the out-of-town draft board, out-of-country draft board, but he got a really high number. That's when the lottery kicked in. He got like a 360 number, so it didn't really matter. And he just became part of our troupe as he performed as a singer-songwriter also in Canada. And we wrote songs together. We sold, a bunch of songs early on, had a couple covered on albums, and I was always very proud of him. There's nothing makes me happier than seeing him play. And in fact, he's going to be playing for my 80th birthday party in Nashville in April. I'm doing a destination birthday weekend, so I didn't get depressed. So I've got a whole bunch of people coming to Nashville, and Fred's band's going to play for the big party.
Oh, fabulous. I remember you guys used to write novelty records. That was...
Well, we had a nice 3-record contract with A&M Records. We did Santa Jaws, which was in Canada. Was nominated for Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and some other stuff. We didn't win, but it was kind of a goof. And then we followed that up with Disco Tech, a kind of anti-disco song, which unfortunately came out the same week that Grease came out, kicking disco for another 10 years. And then we did CB Santa. Kind of ended our novelty career, which was CB Santa, I Got You Loud and Clear. That's a big 10-4 CD for sure. Save Christmas time this year. And I would write these with my...
I was going
my
to dare to ask you to sing, but you sang. That's great.
Well, these were written with Phil Savith, who's no longer with us, but he was my dear partner for many, many years.
Yeah.
And we did the lyrics. My brother did the music.
Oh, my gosh. One of my favorite theatrical experiences was seeing Dick Ferran's Caribbean Cruise.
Oh, I'm so glad
that's
you
how
saw that. That was my farewell to Toronto.
Where did I go? Was it a warehouse? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was a warehouse on the lakeshore. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Unfortunately, opening night, the theater caught fire, so that was a bad review we got. There was a small fire. It was not a big fire. No one was in danger, but the reviewer, Gina Mallet, said, "Flee! This show is unsafe." But I'm glad you came to see it.
You guys preceded that. It was a pretentious thing that's I think it started off in Toronto at an armory. I know it was at the Armory in New York. It was a woman's name. It took place in Italy and under
Exactly.
Muslim.
Yeah, we had the interactive experience first. Of course,
Yeah, I mean,
Holiday
I said I've
Holiday
never seen
Cruise-
anything.
Yeah, Holiday Cruise was a sequel to our very successful Dick Foran's Disasterland, which the CN Tower fell through a building. Yeah, because again, in Canada, it's so wonderful theater. You get all these grants, and the one stipulation is the show cannot make money. Because if it makes money, it's commercial. It's not art. So we would do these shows.
Nothing in Canada makes money. It's perfect.
It was so great. So we had, it was an incredibly lavish production with special effects, and an audience each night was capped at 100. So we could possibly never make money, and it was a big hit. So then that spawned the sequel, which you saw, Holiday Cruise, which unfortunately didn't get the traction that Disasterland did, but it was a very cool show.
Where did you guys come up with this idea to do the
That was Phil
interactive?
and I. We wrote that. We wrote both of them. I don't just we had a lot of fun together. We were obviously influenced by Monty Python and just our background of traditional comedies like Groucho Marx and things like that. And in a way, Phil also was an American living in Canada. We focused on entertainment as opposed to saying something about the country, because it really wasn't our country, so we didn't really feel we needed to do national subjects, so to speak. So we just kind of went for stuff that made us laugh.
And then you went to Hollywood. I remember when you first got here and you told me your agent was, and I almost fainted. I mean, H.N. Swanson. I mean, he'd been Scott Fitzgerald's agent,
He
right?
had Hemingway's fish on his wall.
How did you come? I mean, I mean that building was there forever, but I didn't think he
You know
was
what it was
alive.
like. It was. This is before computers. We were there '78, and you were there a little before me. You were already a novelist, and I still remember the first line of your one novel I read of yours, which was, "The important thing in Hollywood is to know the difference between Santa Monica Boulevard and Little Santa Monica Boulevard." And that's stayed with me for 50 years.
The deal, mate.
But
You're.
anyway,
I matter of fact.
I just submitted scripts to agents, and one of the young agents, Swanson, Joel Gottler, who became a pretty big novelist agency, signed me. I never got any work for them. I kind of left them pretty quickly to go to I think Cy Fisher agency, and then Major Town. It was hopscotch. The agency game. But yeah, H.N. Swan, it was great to meet him. Swanee, he had his own little building on Sunset, and yeah.
But he must have been well into his 80s when you met him.
Oh yeah. He was like a small little man sitting behind a desk and shaking my hand, and I'm taking it all in because like you said, it was Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald. He handled every major novelist who had a book turned into a movie.
And how long? So then you did Chips. You wrote for Chips.
I started writing screenplays before I came to Hollywood. So I sold a screenplay to MGM, and then I got on a series at NBC. It was Rock Hudson's last series called Devlin and Sons, and I was writing that. But at the same time, I was starting to write Chips at night. I had an assignment at Chips, and I wound up just moving over to Chips and being on staff there. It was a great fun show for me because I brought in a lot of the pop culture. And I did all the music shows there. I did the punk episode. I did the all-girl band episode. I did the devil rock episode. I did the country rock episode. And maybe one other I've forgotten. But that was my calling card. I was the music writer guy. I could bring those stories in. And for that, I got an overall deal at MGM, and I was doing pilots, and I got a couple produced. So, yeah, that began my career, again, before computers came in.
And then 90210.
Yeah, then, that was, then I wound up actually executive producing a syndicated series based on Gidget, the new Gidget, which we did for a couple of years. And my star, Karen Richmond, is now the fiance of Fred. Fred did the music for it the second year, and they got together years later, and now they're engaged, and she's a great gal. And so from there, I went up doing comedy pilots. Then I went up doing a 20th more comedy pilots, and somehow didn't work out. So I wound up taking a job at Renegade, like an action show, and did Renegade. But at the same time, I was writing screenplays, and I wrote one about kids in divorce called Borderline Normal, which was produced in Saskatchewan. It's a really good film. And the producer of 90210 saw it and hired me, and I did 128 hours of 90210, writing and producing, executive producing at
How
the end.
long had it been on the air when you came in?
I came in the fourth season. I
Oh,
basically was the one who broke the college. When they made the jump from high school to college, I did all the college episodes. It was 128 of them. I got Donna Martin. I finally wrote the where she gets laid, finally loses her virginity episode. So that was it. After that, I had to be fired like a worker in the pyramids. We were buried alive. Could never work. I never worked for Spelling again. I never worked for Fox again.
what was your first encounter with spelling like?
Oh, Kyle, lover, come on, lover. And then he stab you in the back. He's just a duplicitous guy, but a master. I mean, it was great to learn from him, especially at casting. How he goes, oh, that guy, his eyes are too close together. He's an evil character. He's a bad man. He's not a leading man. And he'd go, no, his ears are too big. He very particular. And in 90210, basically all he cared about was his daughter's part. So we would go in and pitch him the stories and basically start with his daughter first, and he'd be happy. At that point, it was a giant hit for him. It just resurrected his career, and they kept selling the company. In fact, Blockbuster bought the company when I was there. It was kind of odd, and then they kind of went bankrupt, and other people. Then eventually CBS bought it, Paramount.
Amazing.
But Spelling was a master at putting pretty people together. But he didn't. Thank God, he just let us alone. Charles, we were doing 32 hours a year of television. I mean, now they do 8.
Yeah.
And we never missed a day. Never, it's always on time, always on budget. Pretty amazing.
I was always curious. I can't find it. I guess he owes his producing career to Dick Powell, because that
Probably so.
seems
Yeah,
to
he
be
was an
his.
actor then, and he made the
Yeah,
jump from being an actor, googly-eyed actor, a Texas Jew from
yeah,
married Carolyn Jones, and Dick Powell, who of course I knew his son Norman Powell pretty well, lovely guy.
John Vernon bought Norman Powell's house. That's what I remember.
I love John Vernon. I love Norman Powell. They were wonderful people. Yeah, in fact, I
Yeah.
got to meet John Vernon with you about maybe 1979. We went over to his house. I think I remember it was in Burbank.
Uh, well, he had the big house. The Norman Powell house was on Mulholland, and then
Oh
in his
yeah, no, that
divorce,
one I didn't go to.
he sold it, and then it was down in the valley at Encino.
Yeah, maybe that's what
something
it
to
was.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because his daughter Kate ended up with
Kate,
that house.
I cast in a series I did in Montreal called Largo. She did a great job for me.
She's had a very, very successful career, bless her
Yeah,
heart.
yeah, she's lovely.
Now, here's something that, I can't stay online every day of my life checking how's Larry doing, but the wrestling. What is with the
Well,
wrestling? What
in
was that?
2005, first of all, so the show I did in Montreal was a syndicated show. And
Largo.
it was shot in Montreal and Paris. So I got to produce in Montreal and Paris, which was fabulous. But when I was in Paris, 9/11 happened. And
Oh,
after that, and so we finished I was in Paris for a month afterwards. I came back to America, and obviously a lot had changed, including the fact that we got canned and there was no more syndicated market, which I had gone to because I wanted longer orders. I didn't want to be in a show which you got canned after all episodes produced. You have 6 episodes and you're done for the year. So I took 22 episode orders, and I could not get back to prime time at that time. There was no streaming. This is 2001. So I was doing this and that, selling this and that. And I guess what happened was in the WWE, they had lost a lot of money when they went into the football business. And they were now corporate, and corporate pressured them, I think, to hire Walden, one of these headhunters, to improve the product. And they brought in a bunch of Hollywood guys who had experience with long-term storytelling arcs, like 90210. Because wrestling basically is a soap opera. It goes from WrestleMania to WrestleMania. And so I got hired at a very good salary to move to Stamford, Connecticut with another director who was still a friend of mine, and live there and be part of the tour, the 2005 tour. So that was what we did for the 2005, and it was quite an experience. It's like working with a cult of billionaire carnies, with a whole other language I had to learn. I was older than Vince McMahon, so it was really troublesome. But it was a rough shop, and as I discovered, there was no day off. The day off was the flight home. We did 4 hours of live television on Monday and Tuesday, and then we flew home on Wednesday, and then Thursday we're working again, flying out Sunday or Monday. It was, and we were kind of like rock stars. We were flying, in private planes and limousines, and that part was fun. But it was a really tough schedule, and also the creative people there, the real, like Stephanie McMahon and Vince, they were forced to hire us by corporate, and we were making probably 5 times more than the other writers. So they didn't want us to work. I would do something great, and then next week I would not be writing on that storyline. I'd just be sitting there, watching Vince. They said, go watch Vince, or Mr. McMahon, as we called him. And so it was a tough shop. And finally, I did get fired, which was fantastic because I got paid off for the year, because I would not drive from Kansas City to St. Louis at 12 o'clock at night. I said, there's no way. I said, you get me a limousine, which they had done before. Usually we flew in the plane, but if the plane was full, we had to, they gave us limousines. But for some reason, they rented us cars, and I was assigned the driver. I said, no, I'm not doing that. And they said, well, sometimes we're a born-storming troop at our basic feelings, and you have to just step up. I said, no, I'm a writer, not a driver. And so then I got punished, and finally, luckily, fired. And the nightmare stopped after a couple of months, and yeah, everything's good. I'm called Uncle Larry in the wrestling world. I did make some impact, wrote some good storylines, and have stories for forever. I can dine out of those Vince McMahon stories because it's like working for Elvis. That's all I can say. It's kind of crazy.
Again, another side of your life. I thought I had some interesting hats and things.
Well,
but
as a professional writer, I've written for Hulk Hogan and Alec Guinness, and Eric, so I've got a range.
How did I miss the Alec Guinness gig?
No,
what was that?
We did a version of Canterville Ghost, which he was in, like maybe in the late '80s.
Right.
Alyssa Milano.
Right. I know. I do recall
I did
this.
the rewrite on that.
And the screenwriter's daughter.
Yeah, and I did a series of a trilogy of '60s plays. Screenwriter's Daughter was got really successful. It was a play about Ben Hecht and his daughter, who was a member of the Living Theater, Jenny Hecht. And Jenny Hecht was someone I saw perform in 1968, and she haunted me. And I wound up, telling this story, which is pretty damn good of who Ben Hecht was and who Jenny was. And we played it. I think I did a reading in New York. We did it in Cape Cod, and we did it in London. It had a run in London on the West Side. And
you had flirted with the idea of me doing Ben Hecht after you saw King Solomon's Treasure.
That's right. You could still play Ben Hecht.
Well, where's this? Where do we do it?
I mean, they just sit there. I mean, all the plays are great. Actually, I'm starring in. In between. I did 6 novels. The 6th one's coming out this summer, a young adult novel, this trilogy I've done called The Pool Guy's Kid. But I'm actually writing a one act, which this you could be too, a 1-person play with an AI sidebar called the Benedict Arnold Apology Tour. And it's basically Benedict Arnold explaining himself. The audience gets a beanbag, tomatoes and flowers to throw at.
Send it to me. I'd love to do Benedict.
I've just outlined it now. But I will have it done by April. And I'm planning on doing a stage reading of it on Martha's Vineyard, where I have, the theater there likes me. So I'll probably just do an evening of it there just to see how it works. And it's the 250th anniversary of America, so I thought it was kind of timely. But it's a great story, about a great hero who didn't get recognized and got pissed off, in a certain way.
Well, I'm building a theater here on the ranch.
You're telling me that. I love that. But I'm not. I live now in Montgomery, Ohio, in the Ohio River Valley. I'm here visiting in Marina del Rey. And, it's been interesting.
Tell me about the Max Dean Mysteries, the trilogy.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to, try my hand. The first novel I wrote was called Saint-Malo, because I had
Yeah.
spent some time in
Excellent.
Saint-Malo.
Excellent. I
It's a
loved it.
fascinating place, and I wanted to do something that could never be made into a screenplay. So this is a story which, it happens on one level, but a lot of there's historical echoes in it from different periods, and it's always about an urban legend. In this case, it's really about the Ark of the Covenant. And I was looking for a hero, a little bit older, and I felt comfortable writing him. And he became part of a lot of it is myself, but a lot of it isn't. And you know, novel writing is so different because to me, I did not have a template like in a television writing, which is it all has to go to time and everything. There's 4 acts and it's all very structured. But I really wanted to just freeform write, and so I set myself out to do that. And I'd already pretty experienced at that point in storytelling, so I just kind of researched for about a year all the different things I wanted it, and then just kind of wrote like, you're a writer novelist, you know how it goes. And I followed that up with another book called Cayuga about Max Dean, and then the third one, Road to Shambhala. Cayuga's about this urban legend of the prehistoric atom bomb that happened in India, and it gets imported to the American Revolution, and kind of stuff happens. And then the third one, Road to Shambhala, is basically the search for, eternal youth.
Well, you seem to be in the eternal youth market. When
Well, then I moved over
the
to my fan base was always 90210, so I decided to write some young adult novels, and the one currently out now is Crushing Cabo.
which is a
It's
sequel
really
to
a great
Poor
adventure,
Guy's Kid.
it's kissing, danger, and friendship kind of thing. And then the third one, Sling South Island, is coming out this summer.
But it,
And
it
then,
all has the same hero.
what's that?
Is there a continuing character in all 3 books?
Well, yeah, there were five
The
friends.
Pool Guy's
Yeah,
Kid is the
Pool Guy's
character.
Kid was the first one. And it's 5 friends, basically. Yeah, they all move through this, and that's probably be the last one of that, the trilogy of that. And I think that's my last novel. I don't see myself writing another, unless.
And what was this? There's a musical I came across on your website. What the heck was that?
Oh yeah. Search Paul Clayton. Yes, I did it as part of my
Yes.
'60s trilogy. I had discovered through a friend who's recently died. One of Bob Dylan's earliest mentors was a gentleman named Paul Clayton. Paul Clayton, when Bob Dylan arrived in Greenwich Village, Paul Clayton had 11 albums out. He was the most recorded folk singer in America. He did folk songs, Maine lumberjack songs, whaling songs, not singer-songwriter songs. And he basically was a gay man who fell in love with Dylan. And he had a very big hit called "Gotta Travel On." So but he also had a song called "Who'll Buy Your Chickens," which started off, "It ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe, if you don't know by now." And Dylan basically said, "I think I can make that song better," and he did. It's called "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right," and he never gave Paul credit. And it's a tragic story of a great friendship, because besides the song, Paul Clayton was best friend was Carla Rotolo, Susie Rotolo's sister. Carla Rotolo worked for John Lomax, and all the folk songs that you hear in
Oh, yeah.
Dylan's early albums, all those English ballads that he adapted, all came through his relationship with Carla and John Lomax, and through Paul. And Paul was a great friend, and a great friend who, after he screwed Paul for the credit, which Paul tried to get the credit, couldn't get it in the suit, and Paul was part of the famous 1964 cross-country trip that Dylan took in a station wagon. He visited Carl Sandburg, he did all these stuff, and something happened between the two men in New Orleans during Mardi Gras in a brothel, which people think, whatever. At that point, he was off, and he was off Dylan, and he was out of Dylan's life. And when Paul, when Dylan went electric, Paul couldn't do it, and wound up killing himself in a bathtub with an electric guitar.
How old was he?
He was, he was 10 years older than Dylan, so let's see. It happened after the New York blackout, so that was like 65, 67.
Right.
He was probably like 37, 40
And
maybe.
has Dylan ever acknowledged him
Of
in
course,
any?
because Dylan on his Rolling Thunder review would do "Gotta Travel On" and would say this is dedicated to Paul Clayton.
This
That
is a
was the end of the
phenomenon.
song. It was so that's on his album. "Gotta Travel On" is on the live Thunder review. Rolling Thunder review. Yeah, I mean, I'm it's not a great part of his life, but I only knew this story because a friend of mine was a Dylan biographer and had told me the story about Paul Clayton, which is a forgotten guy. And we played. I did it in New York. It was unbelievable because people came out of the woodwork because Paul also, at the end, was very addicted to drugs. He was an out gay man, he was way before his time. But Paul, I should say, background is that he graduated University of Virginia. He was a song catcher, someone who went into the hills and collected songs. He was a PhD in folklore. He was a very educated guy from New Bedford, and who had written all the songs also for Moby Dick, all the whaling songs. That was his real. He's from New Bedford, the whaling thing. But when I did it in New York, Paul had recorded his one folk rock album. It was a kids album, which, according to his one biographer, Bob Coltman, the tapes never existed. They were destroyed. And sure enough, when you're in New York, people show up, and the guys actually had the tapes. His drug dealers were now accountants. They actually had the tapes. They said, we played on it. And it's terrible, just terrible. But I had them send it to the Paul Clayton Archives, which are in Massachusetts.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and it's great. All these people came out. Because in the play, it's Paul Clayton's in it, Dave Van Ronk, Cesar Rotolo, Joan Baez, Reverend Gary Davis. There are six actors who are also players. So it's a great look at Greenwich Village during the folk craze. It's really a lot of fun, and there's like 12 songs in it. We did it. I did
Well, I
it a
wish
couple of
you'd
places.
record it or something so people can.
It's on YouTube. I mean, you don't forget you
Oh,
weren't allowed to record it because the theater, they shut you down. They don't want to have even any clips. They're so restrictive, and that's really why I got killed in New York. The equity really they really fucking nickel and dimed us and put us out of business. And it's just too expensive.
our time is up.
Actors moving furniture, actors playing two part. They just every little thing they could do. They get. We
Yeah.
went 1 minute over for we're not a cabaret show. We're this show. I had a terrible experience with them. So, and it hasn't been done. It got picked up and published by Stage Rights, and it hasn't been done since. It should be done, but theater's expensive, especially musical
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah. Absolutely. Larry, our time is up. I could go on forever, but we can always do a sequel. I'm big on sequels, so are you.
Charles, it's such a pleasure to see you. You always were an inspiration for me. You were a real writer, first real writer I really knew. You had a
Oh,
novelist.
sure.
You had done stuff. You were doing movies of the week, and in a lot of ways, that was the attraction of me leaving Canada, the comfort of Canada, to make a jump to Hollywood, which, of course, at those days was a big jump. '78,
Yeah.
there it was just. But it was a wonderful time because there were no computers. There just was, you
No,
know,
no.
there was a Barbara's Place, which typed scripts for you.
That's right. Barbara's. Oh, my God. That's wild. Larry, I love you. Everybody, click like. We all like Larry. We all like Pay to Dream.
Yes, we do.
Subscribe. Oh, yes. Crushing Cabo. Get it. Bye
Take care,
bye.
man. See you then.